Hello, this is Rocco Pisto, President Emeritus of the Michigan Watercolor Society. We're here with Ron Teachworth at his exhibition at ImageWorks in Dearborn. So Ron, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Rocco.
So for those that don't know you, you've been a member off and on since the 70s.
Early 70s, right out of graduate school.
And where did you go to grad school?
Wayne State.
Okay.
And I knew those, I'm not sure I can, remember all the names, but, the people there at Wayne State, the women especially.
Mary Jane Bigler.
Yeah, Mary Jane Bigler. I took a class from her, oh, wait a minute, I went to graduate school at Wayne. I went to Central for undergraduate, which was a great time there. I had a great art experience there. Believe it or not, I had an incredible art experience at Wayne, but I also had a great experience at Central, but also at Wayne too. And so I started getting drawn into watercolor a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some great, our founders from Michigan Watercolor, or some of Mary Jane were,
staff.
yeah, they were very big back then in
Right.
keeping this organization together.
That's right.
So you've got an exhibition today. Let's talk about the work a little bit.
Yeah, the work, if you were to look at it, you might think, well, this guy was interested in the figure, but most of my career I was not interested in the figure. I just only recently took a shot at the figure, and it happened with a painting of Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera. This was right after their show at the DIA. I was kind of inspired. So what I did was I did some research on who they are and who they were. And this is a painting from his early years in Mexico, and this is a painting that she did in Detroit. And so I was kind of inspired by that. These elements, these flowers are in their paintings. The note, they were big on putting notes in their paintings. These earrings, I'm going to tell you about that. These earrings are exactly the earrings that Picasso gave Frida.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, going back to archival photographs, I found that.
So this is, just from a technical standpoint, it's watercolor,
Yeah.
along with some images that are glued on, basically.
I call them giclées, but they're printed out and archivally attached to the
Surface.
To the surface. 300-pound arches of watercolor paper. Yeah. And that was in the Michigan Watercolor Show last year, and so anyway, I started. That was the first one. This was done. I think this is gonna. No, maybe not. It was done around 2015 or 16, 17, right in there. And I had been doing some watercolors of my own, interior watercolors. I put my own paintings, in the watercolor. I had started doing that. And that's when
Giclées of your paintings?
I call them giclées, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would, I'd do a painting, an interior watercolor with some windows, and I wanted to put something on the wall, and I would put my own painting on the wall. I started doing it that way, and then I transitioned to this, and then to these. That's kind of how it went. So all of these paintings, described in art history and by most museums as art retro, what's it called? Retro, I'm losing it right now, the name of that process by which you incorporate other artists' work in your work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's been done. It's been done since the 40s.
Yeah, right.
The 50s, the 60s, the artists have
Well, you
done it.
see, Warhol.
He did it.
Right.
He did it. These weren't his.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm just saying that I just decided to start doing an artist series on artists that I either wrote about or I really liked. And Romar Bearden, you're looking at that right now, and I liked his work for a long time. And then he had the show in Detroit at the Menominee Gallery, and I wrote about that. So I was drawn to Romar Bearden.
So, two questions.
Yeah.
So, talking about giclées, for someone that doesn't understand what a giclée is.
Oh, yeah. So the word giclée, French word, it came about as part of the digital revolution. So when you start to, I ran into it quite a while ago in Maine is where I found it, when they would take these really big watercolor originals, watercolor still lifes mostly, with a lot of splatter and a lot of nuance and a lot of variation in color and detail and design, everything. And then they would do a capture, but they created very large files. And in doing that, these very large files, you could get a good representation of art. And so it was part of the digital revolution. It still is. That's where it comes from, and that's that's how it's represented here. These are digital images that I gathered and placed in my own paintings.
So the quality of a giclée is far superior to prints that you would get at Staples or something.
Exactly.
It's archival ink.
Right.
It's good for about 150 years without
Right.
changing colors and things. So.
Right. That's right. So it's a niche that's kind of become sort of over here on its own, and there's 8 of them here, and they all are artists, and then representations of their work.
So tell me about, you mentioned that you write as well.
I do.
So
Yeah.
tell me about that business.
Well, when I did most of my early life working as a teacher. I started out working as a teacher, high school teacher, art, and then after I retired from that, it took me a while. I retired from that, and then I started teaching at colleges. I taught at Oakland Community College. I taught at the MWCS, and so I was kind of looking for to do something with my work, and this just came to me,
And what's that company called?
the company.
That you write, where you're doing.
Oh yeah, well then there's the writing. The writing, I started doing fiction, and I did some publishing, and then I jumped into writing reviews, critical reviews, and I did that because the Cleveland Institute of Art was putting together a blog, and they wanted somebody to cover Detroit for them. And they just found me. They found me because I had been writing fiction. And I said, well, I'll take a stab at it. So I did about 50 reviews for them. And then I decided in 2015 that instead of working for them, I think I'll stay right here in Detroit and work on my own. And that was the birth of the Detroit Art Review.
Okay.
Yep, that's how that came about. And it came about because people were losing their work in newspapers. Newspapers were letting people in the arts and writers go left and right. So
Right.
And now the Detroit Art Review is pretty much the only primary source of critical art reviews for the museums and for the big galleries.
Yeah, I was here in Dearborn a couple weeks ago to go see Christina Haylett's show, and one of your people was there interviewing her at the time.
Right.
So
yeah, that was Kathleen. Yeah.
So that was nice.
Yep.
And she was tickled pink. She came to my show a few weeks last week.
Okay.
And we talked about it. And I said, yeah, isn't that neat?
Yeah.
So.
I think she'll come by today. She lives in Ann Arbor.
Right.
So I'll see Christine a little bit. She said she'd stop by.
Ron, this is great. You got 8 pieces on display here on both sides. We're here in Dearborn, in East Dearborn, along Michigan Avenue. Here's the address of ImageWorks. And if you got time, stop by. How long is the show here?
It's going to be up until May 26th.
Okay, the show's up till May 26th.
And interesting, it can be seen 24/7. This is lit all 24.
Okay.
So you can just stop by and look at the show through the windows. And you can see quite a bit.
You don't even have to come in.
You don't even have to come in. If you're
Okay.
in the evening, sometime you can come by and see it.
All right, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you.